Good morning, everybody. It's 8 o'clock UK time, 9 o'clock Brussels time. Welcome to this Project Edward breakfast briefing, where we're focusing on drink driving and the role of alcohol interlocks in saving lives on Europe's roads. Alcohol interlocks first emerged in the 1960s as performance-based devices, and since then they've evolved into sophisticated breath alcohol systems now embedded in legislation and rehabilitation programs across many countries. In recent years, EU initiatives such as the General Safety Regulation and national schemes for offenders and professional drivers have helped bring alcohol interlocks into the mainstream of road safety policy. Well, I'm delighted. I haven't even said who I am yet. So my name's James from Project Edward, just in case you didn't know. I'm delighted that our guides this morning are two people at the heart of this work. Antonio Avenoso is Executive Director of the European Transport Safety Council, which he joined in 2001 and has led since 2008. He oversees a wide portfolio of international research networks and road safety programs, including ETSC's landmark Safe and Sober initiative. And alongside him is his ETSC colleague, Francesca Podda, a highly experienced project manager who has led alcohol interlock activities within Safe and Sober, national events across Europe, and the development of ETSC's alcohol interlock barometer and map. Between them, Antonio and Francesca work with more than 200 experts and 61 member organizations to promote evidence-based measures for tackling drink driving across Europe. Antonio and Francesca, you're both very welcome. Excuse me. It's been a while since we were in touch, but we're so pleased that you're here with us. So welcome along, and the floor is yours to crack on as you wish with your presentation. So thank you, and over to you.
Thank you very much, James, and good morning to you and to all of the colleagues. Well, as you said, it's an honor and a pleasure for us to take you through today our drink driving work at the European Transport Safety Council, and to give you a bit of an overview of alcohol interlock use in the European Union, both as a measure to address recidivist drinking, as well as a quality guarantee in commercial transport. I'm joined by my colleague, project manager Francesca Podda, who is the one who really knows about an alcohol interlock. So we have decided that we would share the presentation. I will give you a bit of an introduction on drink driving in the European Union and on ETSC, and then Francesca will continue with the content on alcohol interlocks. So let me start with a few words, if you allow me, on the European Transport Safety Council. We are the leading voice of road safety in the European Union. We've been set up in 1993. We have a secretariat of 12 people in Brussels, and we are an umbrella organization. We bring together 61 organizations from around Europe, and you will see that apart from our founding member, PAX, the Parliamentary Advisory Council for Transport Safety, we have a very, very big representation also from the UK. I think it's actually the country with the biggest number of members in ETSC. I also I will always want to start with the figures, even though we are talking about drink driving. I want to start with this appalling, unacceptable, shameful figure of the number of road deaths in the European Union. Well, this is the latest data which we have received from the European Commission, and it's the number of road deaths in the EU in 2025. And drink driving plays a big role in that as well. And according to the European Union, up to 1% or 2% of all the kilometers that are driven in the EU are driven with an illegal PAC. And 25% of road deaths, according to the EU, are alcohol related. And alcohol remains the leading cause of death in the age group 16-25 years old. And we are also seeing with the developments of these new form of transport, especially e-scooters. In e-scooter deaths, the risk factor with alcohol is going up to 40%. Well, the reason is intuitive. People want to avoid drink driving, but the risk is then you end up moving the problem from drink driving to the use of e-scooters while under the influence. In terms of numbers, this is only for 22 of the countries of the European Union, while the latest estimate that we had for 2024 says as many as 2,234 people died in alcohol-related crash. And I have to admit that this remains an estimate. It's very difficult because sometimes definitions across the EU member states are also different when it comes to defining what is a drink driving related road death. We also put together a graph with some progress in the period 2011-2021. So in the last decade, well, showing how drink driving deaths reduction in EU 23, so only 23 countries did comparing to the other road deaths. And well, drink driving deaths reduction has been better than with 38% compared to other road deaths with 31. We also have a breakdown for the various countries which we have analyzed, and this was an extremely difficult graph to produce. And actually, I would say the idea and all the thinking came from Professor Richard Olshoff, because having different definitions, different data sets for the different member states made it very difficult to compare. We wanted to compare homogeneous data, and therefore the graph compares the difference between the average annual percentage change in deaths attributed to drink driving and the corresponding change in other road deaths, which means that if the country we're looking at is in green, that doesn't mean that does not necessarily mean that drink driving deaths have been reducing, but it means that they've been changing at or reducing at a quicker pace than all the other deaths. Still a very difficult graph to produce, a difficult graph. I always find it also very difficult to explain. And this is one of the reasons why we're also working and asking for a common definition of drink driving deaths in the European Union, which could give us also common figures and the possibility to compare them more easily. In terms of countermeasures, well, this is what we have been asking for and preaching over the years. Of course, this is quite straightforward. We think that member states should have lower blood alcohol concentration limits, and actually lower is a bit of an understatement, because what we ask for is basically zero tolerance. We would like to have a situation whereby member states says, well, there is no drinking and driving, either you drink or you drive, having, of course, a very, very, very low tolerance limit, which takes into account the limitation of checks and the fact that some digestive processes also produce alcohol in our body. But for the general public, for communication to the public, the message should be very easy and say, well, simply, if you drink, you don't drive. If you drive, you don't drink. This should be, of course, accompanied by effective and dissuasive sanctions and, of course, enforcement, education campaigns, and also very important alcohol interlocks. Alcohol interlocks, which are a form of self-enforcement, if you want, and we have been promoting and supporting the use of alcohol interlocks both in rehabilitation programs and as a voluntary measure in commercial transport. I'll now give the floor to my colleague Francesca, and Francesca will continue and talk about the Safe and Sober campaign.
Thank you, Antonio. Can you hear me, right? You can hear me well.
Yes, perfectly.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, James, also for giving us the opportunity to share our activities we've been running for many years under the framework of the Safe and Sober project. So Safe and Sober is a project we started back in 2008, which is one of our long-standing projects. And the main objective of the Safe and Sober project is to raise awareness of the need of a holistic approach to reduce alcohol-related road crashes in Europe. But also it has a specific focus on promoting the use of technologies that has proven to be very effective, both in commercial but also in rehabilitation program, which are the alcohol interlocks. And this is also the reason why we're gathered today. We did so through the setting up of national events throughout the European countries. So far, we have completed 35 national events since 2008. We also published an alcohol interlock map online, where you can find all the inventory of alcohol interlock programs for rehabilitation, mainly rehabilitation programs that are in force in Europe. And we also launched in January 2023 a quite powerful video campaign sharing two participants' experience in the Belgian alcohol interlock rehabilitation program. You have the chance also to see the video at the end of my presentation. So we are promoting alcohol interlocks in two specific categories of drivers: for professional drivers, for commercial vehicles, and for all other drink driving offenders. And we know that these are particularly effective for a group of hardcore drink driving offenders. We know that they represent only, let's say in brackets, only 10% of all drink driving offenders. But when we get to the figures, we know that they are involved in 2/3 of all alcohol-related crashes. So we know that it's really important to target this category of drivers. And we know also that companies are using alcohol interlocks more and more on a voluntary basis as a quality assurance for their company. Here you have a situation of when we started back in 2008, the situation of alcohol interlock legislation in Europe. We had only Finland who already legislated on alcohol interlock programs. We had a couple of countries such as Sweden, France, and the Netherlands were discussing legislation on alcohol interlock rehabilitation program, and also Ireland and the UK were adopting them on a voluntary basis. When we bounce forward to 2016, so 8 years after, you can see that the patchwork of color is different. We had more countries in green. We had Sweden adopted the legislation, but also Poland, France, and Belgium. And we had more countries using alcohol interlocks as a voluntary basis. And this is the situation right now. We have more countries in green. The new entries are Spain and Italy since last year. So the legislation is very recent. We don't have an impact yet of the legislation because it's very new. But we have more countries in green, and we do welcome the discussion in the UK about the alcohol interlocks in the framework of the new road safety strategy. So, of course, our hope is that we will see soon also the UK in green. I've picked up also two alcohol interlocks programs that are in force in the EU, which are quite effective. Needless to say, Sweden was the forerunner for alcohol interlocks with the trial in 1999, and then the legislation, which is in force since 2012. They have a program which is not compulsory, but it gives the alternative to the offender to choose between a driving ban or following alcohol interlock program. There are two lengths of program depending on the severity of the offense. The 1-year program is for drivers which were convicted with a BAC between 0.2 and 0.9 grams per liter, or the 2-year program, of course, is for the high level offenders with a BAC level of at least 1 gram per liter. In the evaluation made in 2018, there were about 3,000 people currently driving with an alcohol interlock. And also, I wanted to show a very successful project, alcohol interlock program, which is in force in Belgium. The law was adopted in 2010, but it took time to be in force. 2013 was the year in which the law was effective. It was targeting three types of offenders. First, offenders with a BAC above 1.8, so very high level, but caught for the first time. The judge must impose an alcohol interlock with depending on the length, between 1 and 3 years. Then first offenders with a BAC above 0.8, the judge can apply an alcohol interlock, but it still has the opportunity to opt out for that. And then you have the recidivist offenders with a BAC above 1.2. Again, here, the alcohol interlock has to be imposed by the judge for a period between 1 to up to 3 years. A driving ban of at least 3 months, and rehabilitation tests. So far, in 11 years in Belgium, at least 5,000 alcohol interlocks have been installed. And in 2024, the last figures we have, more than 2,500 programs are ongoing. But as I said, countries, especially companies, are using alcohol interlocks on a voluntary basis. But there are also countries who have legislated for alcohol interlocks in commercial transport, as for example France, where buses and coaches are fitted with alcohol interlocks. We have since 2010 coaches assigned to public transport for children with alcohol interlocks equipped, and also all coaches since 2015. Also, Finland has legislated on that since August 2011 with mandatory alcohol interlocks equipped for school and daycare transportation. So we do believe alcohol interlocks work. Of course, there are positive aspects and also drawbacks. Among the strengths, we know that effective programs can be the alternative to the driving ban, which means that people are still securing their jobs. They can still use their car in a safe way to go to their work, for the family activities, for all the society activities. And also when they are coupled with monitoring and the psychological follow-up, they make driver aware of their responsibilities, and also help reduce the recidivism rate once the device is uninstalled in their vehicle. But also key elements for a successful program has to be, as I said, rehabilitation measures. We don't want to see just a dry installation of the alcohol interlock in the vehicle. We need to couple it with a real follow-up, ideally psychological and medical follow-up of the offender. We also need more affordable costs. We know that these programs are quite expensive. Calculated that the average costs are around 2,000 up to 3,000 euro, and these are at the expenses of the offenders. And also another important thing is that there is the need to start the program immediately after the offense. And sometimes it takes a very long time after the offense to integrate the program, and this can be a negative thing in the terms of participation rate. These are our recommendations from ETSC. We would like to see the use of alcohol interlocks mandated for professional drivers. We want to see the timely adoption of the legislation on alcohol interlock installation facilitation for motor vehicles. And as a first step towards wider use of alcohol interlocks, also legislated for these two specific categories of drivers, repeat offenders and professional drivers. And finally, also allow people with an alcohol dependencies to be included in the programs. So far, this was not possible. But fortunately, since March 2025, with the revision of the EU Driving License Directive, now people with an alcohol dependencies can integrate alcohol interlock programs, which was not the case so far. And finally, since 2019, the EU General Safety Regulation required a standardized interface to facilitate the fitting of the alcohol interlock device for all new vehicles since July 2024. And this is reference to the European standard on the alcohol interlock, which is the standard EN 50436. Now, I would like to show our video campaign because, as I said, alcohol interlocks are very important to rehabilitate people in society, to see them not just a dry sanction, but as a rehabilitation program. And I'll leave it to you to watch the video because it's quite powerful to show that. So I will stop sharing the presentation. If I may.
I think we're ready to show the video, but I
Ah,
always make a little announcement before playing a video on Teams because at best it will be a little bit clunky to start with, but you should find the sound and it will catch up with the picture. A few thumbs up as we go into it would be helpful, or if it's not working, let me know straight away. But here it goes.
Okay.
C'était la fête du 15 août, donc j'étais allé prendre un verre dans Bab-Flénal. J'étais contrôlé pour l'alcool test. J'étais positif. Le juge a estimé que bon, je devais forcément être sanctionné. J'ai demandé pour pouvoir garder mon permis vu le besoin de journée. Et il m'a autorisé à avoir les kilotests. Je pense que c'est positif, oui. Pour quelqu'un qui pense qu'il n'y a aucun risque et qui roule tout le temps, les kilotests, c'est réaliser quand même que forcément, on ne boit pas un verre, parce que si on boit un verre, on ne sait pas reprendre sa voiture. Les kilotests vous obligent tout de suite à réagir. Il n'y a pas le choix.
Ik heb wat problemen gehad, zware tijden gekend gehad. En dan ben ik beginnen te drinken gewoon. Dan ben ik tegengehouden geweest door de politie. En dan ben ik een paar maal ook veroordeeld geweest voor het gerecht. En dan altijd wel geldboetes gekregen gehad. De drang naar alcohol was zoveel sterker. Dat geldboetes gewoon, dat die niet de overtuigende factor waren voor mij te doen stoppen met drinken. Er ging sowieso iets fout gaan, dat weet ik goed. Ik rij elke dag veel kilometers. Op een bepaald moment terug voor het gerecht gekomen, heb ik tegen de rechter zelf gezegd van kijk, nu is het goed geweest. Ik zou graag hebben dat je mij een alcoholslot gewoon oplegt. Want ik weet dat er toch, ik besefde als ik zo blijf doorgaan, dat er iets fout gaat lopen. En dat dat meer is alleen een geldboete gaat zijn. Misschien dat er zware ongevallen bij gaat zijn. Of nog erger, zwaar gekwetsten of dode mensen er gingen bij zijn. En dat wou ik totaal vermijden. Dus daarom heb ik aan de rechter gevraagd van kijk, ik weet een alcoholslot bestaat. Leg mij dat alsjeblieft op. Gewoon, want het gaat zo niet verder kunnen gaan.
Il y a 1 an maintenant que j'ai l'appareil, j'ai plus ma voiture parce que je travaille toujours le matin et le soir comme garde. Si je n'aurais pas eu mon permis, j'aurais eu très difficile de me rendre à mon travail. Quand j'ai fini à 10h30 du soir, après je n'ai plus de bus qui remonte à Frimal. Les kiloteufs me conviennent bien. On est reçu de temps en temps par un psychologue, on discute de tout ça. Donc ça ouvre un peu l'esprit. Je pense que c'est vraiment une bonne chose, quoi. Ça fait vraiment réaliser le problème. Et alors maintenant, quand je veux boire un verre, je vais pas avec ma voiture, tout simplement. Et...
Het heeft echt dag en nacht mijn leven veranderd. Ja, heel duidelijk. In het begin was het vreemd gewoon, omdat het is iets nieuws gewoon. Het was ook in de periode juist voordat het met kerstmis en zo, dat je de kerstdrinken en dergelijke hebt, kerstmisfeestjes en zo. Dus oké, dan besefte ik al van, ik kan niet drinken nu op het werk. Ik kan daar geen glühwein drinken met de rest. Ik drink een watertje in de plaats. Ik moet 's morgens vertrekken naar mijn werk. Als ik terugkom van mijn werk, terug naar huis, gewoon moet ik het telkens openblazen. En iedere keer doet het mij eraan herinneren, drinken en rijden, don't do it. Het is niet goed, het mag niet, het is gevaarlijk, het is veel te gevaarlijk.
Je pense que les kilotests, c'est mieux que de retirer le permis de conduire. Au fait, si vous retirez le permis de conduire, je peux rouler sans mon permis de conduire. Avec les kilotests, je peux rouler aussi sans permis de conduire. Sauf que là, je ne sais pas moi. Si on m'aurait retiré mon permis de conduire, là, ça aurait été embêtant. Parce que pour conduire ma fille à l'école, ma femme, quoi que ce soit, là, c'est... Vous privez votre famille en même temps de privilèges.
Het heeft mijn leven duidelijk veranderd. Gewoon. Mijn relatie met mijn ouders, met mijn broer, met mijn zus, die zijn zoveel hechter geworden. Mijn ouders zijn ook gewoon al een stuk geruster. Gewoon. En nu weten die ook, die heeft een slot. Gewoon. Hij kan niet meer drinken en rijden. Gewoon. Dus die slapen al veel vaster. Gewoon. 's Nachts. Nu wat in mijn auto steekt, is voor mij persoonlijk. Ik heb het overgekocht gehad van de firma. Gewoon gezegd van kijk, ik ben er zoveel overtuigd. Ik neem het over.
L'avantage du kilotests, c'est qu'on garde son permis, c'est que la famille en profite, c'est bien pour tout le monde. Et en plus, pour la sécurité, forcément, je ne bois plus quand je suis de ma voiture. Donc ça ne peut faire que du bien pour moi comme pour les autres.
Het is echt een succesverhaal hier. Maar waar ik nu zit, je mocht het echt een succesverhaal noemen. Het heeft echt duidelijk een andere mens voor mij gemaakt.
Thank you very much, Francesca
Thank you.
and Antonio, both of you for the presentation of that very powerful video, which I'm just I hope everybody was able to benefit from watching that. Good. Well, look, we now invite questions from those who are in our audience, because you will all find, folks, that your camera and your microphone are enabled. So I'm going to try and keep my eyes on who wants to ask. I've got a raft of questions myself, but we'll try and have a look. So please raise your hand if you would like to ask a question, and we will come to you. But excuse me. Right. First of all, a question from me is to just, I suppose, what we saw there, you showed striking figures on alcohol-related deaths in the EU. Was it up to between 1.5 and 2 kilometers per 100 are driven above the alcohol limit, which is obviously really worrying. Which trends worry you most at the moment, and are there any positive developments that you might want to highlight? That's my first question.
Okay, thanks, James. Maybe I'll take that because it was related to my part of the presentation. Something that really worries us is that, I mean, drink driving is generally accepted by society as being unacceptable. We still see in countries people who defend speeding sometimes. We don't, of course, and we try and warn society of how dangerous even minor speeding can be. But drink driving, I mean, I don't see anybody any longer saying, "Well, it's fine to drink and drive." But still, we see many cases of drink driving in the European Union. And something that we miss is the next step to make society understand that you are a risk for yourself and for society well before you are drunk. So in America, they make the difference between drunk driving and drink driving. And sometimes we feel like people think you need to be drunk to be a danger. Whereas even lower levels of alcohol in your blood make you a danger for yourself and for society. And this is why we insist that drink driving, well, should not exist at all. We should make sure that we have zero blood alcohol limits and that we enforce them and that we can use, when possible, alcohol interlocks. And so this is what worries us most. In terms of trends, yes, there has been clearly improvements in society. We've seen, the drink driving deaths falling at a quicker pace than other road deaths. We've seen a more widespread use of alcohol interlocks. We've seen many countries lowering their blood alcohol limit. We've seen a lot of voluntary use in commercial transport. So there is some encouragement, but at the same time, there is not at all room for complacency, and there is still a lot of work to do to eradicate totally from society drink driving. Francesca.
And if I may add something also, one thing that we're struggling with in the last years is also the data collection. We know that we have estimate of drink driving being up to 1/3 of all the road deaths in Europe, but we're still lacking a lot of data. And we don't have the clear picture of it. We know that it's much higher than that, but countries are really lagging behind in the data collection. This is something we also recommend to member states to improve the data collection of alcohol-related road deaths. It's really important to give us the clear picture and also to produce effective policies to tackle the issue.
I think that's a topic for another day. The whole thing of data is so important, and I'm sure we all agree. Another one from me, and then we'll open it up to some of our guests. Just practically explain how the modern alcohol interlock works in practice from the driver's perspective, and how you get to prevent false positives or manipulations.
Yeah, I think I can go for that. So once the alcohol interlock is installed in one of the laboratories in the country in which the program is in force, the driver receives his car with the alcohol interlock. Each time he has to start the engine, he has to blow in the device for a set time, and the device will tell him if he can drive or not. He can start the car if it's below the threshold, which is usually 0.2 for this device in the car. Once the car is running, in order to avoid circumvention and fraud, it can be asked after 15-20 minutes to redo the test. This can be done in a moment. It will have time to do so. So it can have time to park the car in order to redo the test, and so avoid the fact that it can be someone else doing it. We don't see a lot of circumvention from all the alcohol interlock programs. First of all, because people are quite aware that this is an alternative for them, and it's not a real punishment. They will be more punished if they're not having their car anymore. So they do understand the importance of having this device in the car. They're not circumventing that much. If they are, it's really a very, very minimum number of them. And if they do so, they are stopped from the program. They are taken out of the program and they cannot get back. So they understand that this is not a good thing to do, basically. So it works pretty well.
Thank you very much.
If I may add, what you cannot do, Francesca explained extremely well what you can do and what you will do with an alcohol interlock. What you cannot do is ask your dog to blow. You cannot ask somebody else to inflate a balloon and then use it for the alcohol interlock. So by now, manufacturers have developed products that are capable of really avoid any sort of fraud and circumventions. By now, actually, the system is even capable of recognize who is blowing by the way you hum into the system. So they are really sophisticated products which will make sure that those who have to use it will use it.
Yeah, I'm sorry I went on mute because I was coughing. Right, open up the floor to Jock Boyle. Jock, hello. Would you like to turn your microphone on and ask your question to Antonio and Francesca, please? Hi, Jock. It's over to you.
Yeah, the interlocks are fantastic, and it's better than I find, as you've seen in the video. You know, everywhere that has the interlocks there, in France and all these places, you know, people are going to drive, whether because they need to drive for work and everything else, and having an interlock as a, you know, if you're caught drink driving, then that should be the first thing, because a fine does nothing. So that I'm actually working with somebody that has an interlock that's done with alcohol and drugs with a fingerprint that you might be interested in. It's definitely way forward. Fines don't work, and telling people that they're not to drink and drive, because people don't realise, you know, that having a drink at night and everything else, it's first thing in the morning, and that's when most people are caught.
Can I just interrupt you, Jock? So the interlock works by the driver's fingerprint, so they don't breathe. They just show a fingerprint, and they breathe. They must have to breathe as well.
Oh no, this is it's hard. You know, I work with lots of different individuals, and this is just being patented and everything else. It's just needing to get out there now.
But if you're not breathing, how does the machine know that you're sober? Sorry, help me out here, Francesca and Antonio, if I'm missing something. But a fingerprint alone wouldn't do it, would it?
No, it does. It's I can't tell you how it actually works, but it's your fingerprint. You don't have to breathe, and it's alcohol and drugs.
Thank you, Job. I think we should bring in James, one of the manufacturers who are attending today, because they know better than us. I've heard about, of course, transdermal detection of alcohol. Well, the technology I'm aware with in the alcohol interlock programs used in the European Union is the one with the blowing, and I'm not aware of any transdermal use, and even less for immediate detection of drugs. But I saw Ian Marple somewhere. Sorry, maybe to like put the spot on him. Maybe, well, you can clarify that. But to be honest, I don't know.
Ian, are you able to talk? Because it's probably the middle of the night where you are. But if you're with us, then you're very welcome to jump in here.
I am.
Just tell us who you are and what you do and who you represent, please.
My name is Ian Marples, and I represent a US-based company called Smart Start, and we're a manufacturer and supplier of alcohol interlocks used in offender programs in North America, Australia, New Zealand, and a number of countries in Europe. I've been involved in the interlock industry for 34 years, so I do know a thing or two about the technology. Devices that are used in European offender programs are certified to the European standard that Francesca made reference to, the N50436. And that standard requires a device that the user has to blow into before the vehicle can be started. There's lots of work being done on technology that focuses not so much on alcohol impairment, but impairment in general. And that could, in theory, address impairment by drugs or distraction or fatigue or things of that sort. But the technology that's available today and used in programs for offenders is strictly alcohol-based, and it requires what we refer to as an active blow.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Jock, for the question. Let's move on to our next question, which comes from Nick Saddington. Nick, hello. Would you like to tell us a bit about you and put your question? Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, James. And thank you very much, Antonio Cheska, for a really interesting presentation and video. I work with the Case LinkedIn Road Safety Charity. I am Road Smart. I have worked as a drink drive rehabilitator in the past. So I've got a little bit of knowledge. One of the things I picked up on from the video, which prompted my question, was a comment from the first chap who said that he had fairly regular visits to or interaction with a psychologist in conjunction with the alcohol interlock. Now, from my prior knowledge, I see that as being quite important. The interlock on its own, not necessarily being the answer to the question. It's a great tool to help, but the psychological dependence, particularly, is something that needs to be worked on in conjunction with an interlock to help an offender not reoffend, which is everybody's aim. So I just wanted to ask whether the programs that are ongoing at the moment throughout Europe actually have that requirement alongside the interlock. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. I'll also bring in Francesca, but I just wanted to thank you for picking up that point, because actually the rehabilitation, the psychological support is not important in an alcohol interlock program. It's fundamental. Without that, they are bound to failure, because of course you can have the interlock for 2 years, of course, but then it has been shown that the moment you remove the alcohol interlock, unless the problem has been treated in a different way, medically, psychologically, and all the rest, well, recidivism kicks in. And we know, for example, that in France, that there was not something like this. We know that Italy is developing an alcohol interlock program without rehabilitation. And well, for it to be successful, and I'm thinking about the case of Belgium, for example, you need to have also the associated work of the medical sector.
Yes, exactly. This is something we really advocate for. Each time we hear that there is a new legislation in a country which will foresee an alcohol interlock program, we would like to have rehabilitation coupled with the device. The only device cannot help. Also, Poland has the same program with just the dry installation of the program, no monitoring, no data, not even data log out. So they just install it and they don't know what drivers are doing with it. So it means legislating for not having an effective and successful program is not what we want. What we want is to really have the device with a medical and psychological follow-up at least twice a year, like in Belgium, for example. throughout the program. And as you also saw from the video, the guy asked for keeping the device, which is something that in Belgium is becoming quite common. People with the device, they got so used to that they decide to keep it because it became a habit for them just to blow in and drive. They understood the good part of it, and there are many people who decide to literally buy it and probably to move it to his son car at some point in order to be more like safe once the son is driving. So it's really a trend that that we are seeing in Belgium for people in the alcohol interlock program. They decide to not just rent it but buy it and keep it.
Yeah, and not having the rehabilitation is not just neutral, it's also counterproductive, because then the overall system will fail when you realize that you don't manage to bring down the alcohol-related deaths, and basically at some stage the program will be withdrawn. So if you do it well, basically.
Thank you very much. And thanks, Nick, for your question. I've got a question from myself at this end. If we can just have a look at the e-scooter issue that you've highlighted. Do you see a role for alcohol interlock type thinking or technology beyond the traditional car driver, I suppose? Could that happen?
My very candid question is a bit too early. I mean, not for the time being, to be honest. We know interlocks have been used in other industries, in nuclear energy, in plants, sometimes in trains, in boats. Well, why not? They could be also used in planes, even though the issue of flying and driving, drinking and flying is to my knowledge, less important. But I mean, not that I say that it would be useless, but you know, the e-scooter is what it is. There is sometimes not even space for a number plate for a light, and at the moment the technology also needs some space, and it has some cost, and well, my candid opinion is, for the time being, is a bit too early.
Okay, we'll revisit that another time. I'm just going to see if Duncan Wakes Miller is able to join us, because I'm going to talk a little bit about political will. Duncan, I can see you're on the call. I'm sorry to open it up like this and cause you to have to speak. You don't have to, but you'll be very welcome if you can. Let's talk about political will and your experience of that. Just tell us your story briefly.
Yeah, thank you, James. My son was killed by a drunk driver 5 years ago, and I helped set up the Road Trauma Support Group in Australia, and we support over 600 families who've had people killed on the roads in New South Wales, and very proactive and in terms of trying to drive legislation around road crime, but also around working with road safety activists to put things like alcohol interlocks into the system. And I'm a strong proponent of mandatory alcohol interlocks and better rehabilitation programs. So this is a topic that I'm very keen on working with and getting more data on to push the agenda in Australia. And we have a program they call the mandatory alcohol interlock program, but it's so full of holes it would be best to describe as a Swiss cheese. So I want to work with people on this call, with James and others, to see how we can shift the agenda, and I'm happy to speak to anyone to move this forward.
What's your view on political will? Because our take is that it exists in Australia, in Victoria particularly, but that's perhaps just perception.
Yeah, it does exist, and in our federated state of Australia, there is different opportunities, I guess. What I think is becoming clear is that it's becoming less politicized. So of the few things that that can be, and road cameras are a very hot political potato here, but I think alcohol interlocks is something that we might be able to get some traction on because of the Victoria story. I'm in New South Wales, a bit further north. So there is a little bit of a will, and I think if we can make the economics stack up, then it's maybe something that we can move on. So I'm very keen also to speak to Ian as well, potentially around what technology, and I've put a question in there around the technology roadmap. I think the affordability of this program, married with good psychological supports, if we can get that cracked and a good business case, I think there would be potential for getting some political will in favor of this.
Thank you, Duncan. Any observations or reflections there from Antonio or Francesca on that?
Well, yeah, political will, yes. I mean, what can I say? Something that moves the dial in road safety, whatever the area of road safety we're talking about. So it's very difficult to move forward, even in alcohol interlocks, if you don't have the political will behind it. And if you have it at the higher level, it is even better.
Well, just tell me this then, Antonio. Safe and Sober has been running since 2008. What have you learned about communicating with politicians in that time?
Well, first and foremost, that it's not rocket science technology, that it works. It's easy to implement. At the end, when you put it in, people like it. And as Francesca said, they like to continue. Now, it would really be too much saying that the developments of the programs have been because of Safe and Sober only. But we have been banging the drum all over Europe with over 35 events where very often we had ministers, high-level politicians participating. And we like to think that a part of the merit for the implementation of the programs is also because of Safe and Sober. You really need to let people know that it works. That it's easy. It's a lifesaver. And if I may, we've not talked a lot about that. It's also the importance of alcohol interlocks as a quality assurance measure in commercial transport. If you go to Sweden, many taxis, well, colleagues told us a few weeks ago that it's very difficult to find a taxi in Stockholm without an alcohol interlock. And also, alcohol interlocks can help a company like win contracts. I always remember the case of Matthew Coaches in Ireland that has equipped their vehicles with alcohol interlocks. And then they came and told us, hey, maybe also because of that, we won a contract for the Olympic Games in the UK. Because we could show that we have vehicles that are equipped with this technology, and that transport we will carry out on behalf of the contractor will be sober transport.
Thank you very much. Duncan's just popped something into the chat. Are there statistics around reduced recidivism that we could calculate the reduction in serious injury or death?
Not that I'm aware of, I'm afraid.
No, okay, no problem at all. I've just got one final question, I suppose, to round this off. What one message would you, Francesca, and you, Antonio, most like practitioners and policymakers who are watching today to take back to their own organizations after this session, just to round it off?
Okay, so if I may say, our three main points to stakeholders or member states would be, in terms of drink driving, better data collection, as I said, better enforcement. We really need to have police checks on the roads more, and to have a clear picture of how many people are actually driving above the BAC limit, and legislate for alcohol interlocks for commercial transport and rehabilitation programs. Yes.
Thank
you. The message from me, James, we still have a problem with drink driving. That's undeniable. We should have a cohort of measures to address it, not just alcohol interlocks. We have legislation, we have sanctions, we have campaign, we have education. But when it's needed, the technology works very well. It's well developed. Manufacturers have done a great deal of work in making interlocks being an effective measure. And so why not use the technology, especially now that even European regulation is, well, I'm talking for the European Union, but we hope that this will be extended to the UK as well, has made sure that vehicles can be quickly retrofitted with alcohol interlock and everything will work smoothly. We have a tool, we have to use it as much as we can.
Thank you. Antonio Avenoso, Executive Director, and Francesca Podda, the project manager from the European Transport Safety Council. So thinking about data collection, enforcement, legislation, and using alcohol interlocks within a cohort of measures, that brings us to the end of this Project Edward breakfast briefing on drink driving and alcohol interlocks. Let me just say big thanks to Jock, Ian, Nick, and Duncan for your questions and your participation. Greatly appreciated. And of course, thanks to Antonio and Francesca for sharing their expertise, and to you for joining the discussion. We'll be back in the first week of June with not one, not two, but 3 webinars. On Tuesday, the 2nd of June at 10 a.m, I'll be in conversation with Chief Constable Jo Shiner as she reflects on 5 years at the helm of the National Police Chiefs Council Roads Policing Portfolio. On Wednesday, the 3rd of June at 11, we continue our Protecting Young Drivers series. And on Friday, the 5th of June at 8 a.m, our first Friday breakfast briefing looks at commercial driver wellbeing, and we'll be joined by Professor Stacey Cleames and Dr. Grant Charlesworth-Jones. But for now, from me and the Project Edward team, I'm James, and it's goodbye. Have a very good Friday and a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.